Hello, everyone, and happy Monday. We're very excited to talk today about cooperative care. I would love to know from the people who are watching today if you know what cooperative care is, and share with us if your dog struggles at all with any type of cooperative care at home. We're going to start out there, be a little vague before I define it for everybody. While we're waiting for some of the responses to come in, I wanted to share that I've got video samples tonight for you guys that are going to help us to read some body language when our dogs are saying, no thank you, stop, yes please, go on, or just not much at all. And that's important for us when we're working with cooperative care. And I'm also going to show you some fabulous videos that demonstrate how to teach our dogs to enjoy cooperative care. Okay, so looks like maybe some people in our audience here don't know exactly what cooperative care is yet. You can also hear it be referred to as husbandry. I don't tend to use the word husbandry as much because it doesn't seem to roll off my tongue personally whenever I think husbandry. I don't know, being from Wisconsin, I think of cows and cattle and breeding. But what cooperative care is teaching your dog to participate with you in care that you need to provide them, or others need to provide them. Examples of that are brushing your dog, trimming their toenails, putting their harness on. If you're working on conditioning a muzzle, putting the muzzle on. Going to visits to the groomer where there's all kinds of handling and restraint being done there. Visits to the vet clinic for handling and restraint. So believe it or not, yes, we can help our animals to be an active participant in these skills. So does anybody's dogs here have a tough time with any of those things that I just listed? Ed, for as an example, he is not a fan of having his ears cleaned. So he actually inspired me to make a course for this that we're almost finished with and it's ready to go out. I think vet clinics are a very common one for dogs not to feel very comfortable with. And I've got a couple clients right now that we're working on that to help them to feel better. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. Everybody's a little quiet tonight. I would love to have you chime in, though. It's always so nice to have participants while I'm here on live. Okay, so we're going to go to the presentation. All right, so we're going to talk about what the heck is cooperative care. And here is what we're going to cover today. So what is it? Myths on providing care. Where to start getting to work and protecting it, which is very important, as well as how to find qualified help if you get stuck. Okay, so here is a definition of cooperative care, and I broke it out. So cooperative is involving mutual assistance and working toward a common goal. Care is the provision of what is necessary for the health, welfare, maintenance, and protection of someone or something. And in our case, our animals, our dogs. So cooperative care together is training an individual to be an active and willing participant in their own health and welfare. And for us, this includes handling and restraint procedures for our dogs. So what does it mean for you if you work on this with your dog? It means that your dog is going to have less fear, anxiety, and stress. It means that they're going to have increased confident cooperation with you, or they're going to be happy to engage in this. There's going to be reduced risk of injury, and that includes to themselves. The things that our animals will do when they are stressed out and don't feel that the situation is safe is pretty crazy, all the way from twisting themselves to they're getting out of their harnesses and then going and jetting off into traffic to growling and attempting to bite the people who are trying to help perform these procedures on them. So that means that it turns over into risk of injury to you, your family, the staff at your groomer or clinic that are helping to care for your animal. We'll talk about the benefits of proactive care instead of last resort. I know if you've got a fearful animal that you don't want to take to the vet clinic, you really kind of put a lot of stuff off until you just can't wait. And sometimes that means that you end up going to, say, an ER visit rather than your primary care. And if we can help everybody to feel better, you won't feel the need to wait so long. And in the end, it truly does save you money in more ways than one. Okay, myths. So I always like to address this first because so many people, they kind of look at me and they laugh and are like, oh, my dog would never be able to do that. So that brings us right away to that point one. My dog is beyond help. People will say, I need to give my dog XYZ medication, and they even fight through that. But the reality is all dogs can learn that they are a part of their care, and they can learn this by you going at their pace and allowing them to know that they have the power to say stop without having to escalate to growling or biting. And that tends to be when we listen as humans, right? That growling or biting, we're like, ugh, animals' teeth, we could get hurt. The next myth is there is no other way. But frankly, the reality is that there sure is. This is a nice little snippet I took of watching some zookeepers at the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo. They had trained this tiger to come and press itself up against the side of the chain link fence there so that the veterinarian could give them an injection. And then afterwards, she paid him from a big bucket she had and a spoon, and he came up to get the food reward. So if we can train wild animals in captivity to voluntarily participate in procedures to help them feel better, you can bet we can do it with our dogs. Okay, myth number 3, my vet will never support this. The reality is your veterinarian and their support staff absolutely want you and your dog to enjoy your visits. So share that you want to work on this to help your animals feel less stressed, you feel less stressed, and them less stressed. A lot of the times our staff in these clinics feel under the pressure to have to get things done because clients need it done and they want it done yesterday. So if you let them know, please do take your time with this. I want my dog to feel comfortable. I want you to feel safe. They would be more than happy to help with it. Okay, so that takes us where to start. It's never too early, speaking of puppies, and it's never too late to get started with this. The biggest point that we need to start with is learning how to read dog body language. And you need to observe your dog's body language with routine handling and care at home. This is where I'm going to have you guys get started after you get done watching tonight. I want you to see all these things that you think or assume that your dog is fine with to double check that they are or not. If you're not sure, we want you to reach out. We want you to get some video if it's safe to do so, and then reach out. Here's example, just a little taster. On the right here, we've got 2 images of Tank. Which one would you guess is him relaxed, and which one is him a bit stressed? A or B? And I would love to know why. What are you seeing that is telling you that he is happy and relaxed, or not so happy and relaxed? I'm going to give you guys some hints here. I want you to look at his eyes. I want you to look at his mouth. Those are the two big ones. What do you see in the differences there? Okay, we're seeing on the left side, on A, his pupils. They're pretty big and dark and round, aren't they? Yeah, so those are pretty big. That's a little on the stress side. We can also see that when they get excited, but that accompanied with the fact that his mouth is closed tight. That to me would say that the picture on the left is when he's a bit stressed. And that's actually a picture when he's at the vet. And he does like his vet, but as I said, they can get a little uncomfortable with those visits. They're frequently not just going there to get treats. They're going there to get poked and prodded and handled in ways that's not normal to our dogs. In picture A, Victoria shares in picture A, his eyes are wide and his mouth is closed. Yep. His whole face in picture B is relaxed. Yeah, if we can imagine us kind of repeating the scenario, like with your face, like when you're smiling and your mouth is open, like those muscles in your face are all relaxed, his eyes are soft, versus if you were like, I'm scared about something, and everything tightens and clenches up. Yeah, exactly, Victoria. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of practice, and I'm going to explain the things that we are looking for when our dogs start to get stressed and are seeing the thing that they're potentially afraid of as a threat. So we all know the very top, tippity top there. It's when they're taking action and when they bite. And that one is obvious to us. We can't miss that one. But let's go and start all the way at the bottom. I want you to look at that purple bottom part. Now I know the print is a little small, so I will read through it. And just a note, these are just a few of them. I couldn't fit all of them in there when I created this. So the very bottom, the purple, are displacement or calming behaviors. And you can think of this as them saying politely, hey, I'd like some more space. I'd like you to stop that. Or it can also mean, I mean no threats. So you will see things like sniffing at the ground, scratching themselves, yawning, blinking, lip licking or lizard tongue. They kind of stick their tongue out and back in again, looking away or moving away. Now, everybody says at this point, well, my dog does those things all the time. Of course they do, but it's about context. For example, if somebody were to come up to your dog and they're getting ready to groom them and they've got the brush in their hand and they're like, hey puppy, here's the brush, we're going to do some brushing, and they start to move towards them and the dog sticks out their tongue and then looks away and then starts sniffing the ground, that is them saying no thank you politely. So it's a very clear action in the dog world that says that, but we as humans often miss that because we're on the verbal side of things rather than the visual side of things. So if a dog is starting to feel like, oh, okay, these things on the bottom here aren't working, or hint, they haven't worked in the past, they start to escalate up. And this next area on the pyramid is where they start to have those physiological feelings. So you can start to see them panting, their pupils can get all big and round and dilated. You can start to see them trembling or shaking. Their hackles can go up on their back between their shoulder blades or near their rump. You can start to see after an event like that, if you were to start to notice it and then you stopped, you could see them kind of shake off, like, just kind of shaking all that stress off. After that, they then start to say, okay, I've got to focus on this thing that is clearly not hearing me or seeing my stress reactions. And that's when you start to see their body getting a little bit more tense. So if their mouth was open and loose, now it's closed. You can see their ears pin back. Their eyes can begin to get focused on that thing. So rather than looking away or moving away, they're now eyes glued. If they move, then you're going to see kind of stiff or waxy, kind of creepy movements. Next up from that is they're going to start preparing for action. So this is typically when people call me. So showing the teeth and growling. And I want you to think of this as them saying, hey, don't make me use these. Don't check them out. I got pointy teeth. It sort of would be like somebody like bringing up their fists and being like, hey, I know how to box or I know Kung Fu. It's the same thing where they're saying, I've got this as my defense. Don't make me do it. It's the same with our dogs. So if that's not heeded, or if that in the past they've been told not to growl because it freaks us out, which is normal, then they're going to resort up to the next part, which is snapping or lunging. And this is where they are taking action, but it's inhibited, meaning they don't want to bite. They don't want to go to full action because they know that if they go up to that biting level, they themselves have a chance of getting harmed also. So very last up there is the biting. So now as I kind of hinted towards as I was going through this pyramid, if these things on the bottom have not been noticed, or as we start to get up to the middle, like the things like showing their teeth and growling, snapping or lunging, and we yell no at our dogs and tell them that they cannot do that, then they are going to fly through some of those or even skip some. And the reason for that is, why would they waste their time on things that have not worked in the past? They're going to escalate to the things that do work to get us to stop doing the things that are making them feel uncomfortable. So our goal is to look for the stuff on the bottom. Once you see some of these things, like that lip licking or obviously moving away or blinking and closing their eyes when you come towards them, you can't unsee them. And it is going to be a game changer in the work with your dog. Okay, so let's watch some videos to practice some of this stuff. So I have got some examples, and we're going to start out with an example from Oleg Sobol of Polite Pup. And I picked out a little bit here. So I'm going to fast forward to 1 minute and 15 seconds here. This is a video of 2 different puppies he's working with on body handling. So I'm going to want you to watch to see what the puppy says a couple times when Oleg goes to bring his hand out to touch him, and tell me what you're seeing that the puppy's saying he's a little uncomfortable. There was a little one right there. He backed up.
So good.
Okay, now he's laying down.
I don't want you to worry about your feet.
Oh, there he pulled his foot away.
Touch your ear again. Thank you.
Okay, this puppy now. For this puppy, I want you to look at his posture overall. He could just be sitting kind of funny, but he is a little bit hunched, and you'll watch as Oleg goes along here that he actually does a bit more of that and a little bit more of like what puppy 1 did there. Yep, there, a little scooch away. Yep, lip lick, moving away. Good call there, Victoria. Look at his little back legs. He's slowly inching himself away there.
Nervous? Oh, thank you.
And then back to puppy 1 again.
Thank you.
And that time puppy 1 stood up and walked away. Good. Okay, so those are some examples. Now here's another one. This one is a video of from Nicola Squire of Carefree Canine, and this is her own dog Sango. And she has worked really hard with Sango, but Sango's still having a tough time with this harness. Now you're going to see that she is feeding him, and just like Oleg is going through and helping him to feel better. But I want you to watch the overall body language of Sango, all the way up from when it's presented until it's fully clipped, and then afterwards. So here we're happy waggy.
Good girl.
And look how she kind of just got herself in there barely. And did you see that sly move Nicola just did? I'm going to rewind it here in a second. But she's paying until she's getting down there to reach under, and then quickly she lets go of her hand with the food in it so that Sango can keep munching, so she can go underneath and quickly grab the rest of it. So I'm going to rewind there. Good. He's still munching. Clip. She gives him another food reward there. Oh, you can see how he's kind of doing a little, whoa, I don't like that. What are you doing? Oh, and he almost did a little shake off there. And that would have been an example of them, whew, that was stressful. I'm shaking it out. Right, bud? Okay. All right, and Victoria here says, that's why it's so important to understand the subtle body language that dogs give off. If you don't know what you're looking for, it's easy to push a dog past their comfort level. So very true. Okay. Boop. I'm trying to get that to come off. Okay. All right. So here's a more obvious one, because this guy's a little bit more vocal. So, I'm going to fast forward. Okay, so here is Victoria's dog, Tank. Tank is also not a fan of having his ears cleaned, just like Ed, except for Tank's a little bit more vocal about it. So let's see what Tank does when he's presented the ear wash bottle. Yeah, he's like, get that away from me. And that was just the sight of it, right? So, okay. So now we're going to go back to the jammies. I know, aren't his jammies adorable? Okay, so now that you've seen some examples of some of that more subtle body language and some of the stuff that we're looking for, let's talk about how we can start getting to work with teaching our dogs that these things are actually safe and okay. And of course, we're going to use science. Okay, so how dogs learn. So after body language, this is the next important part, is understanding how our dogs learn. They learn in 2 ways, and they're excellent at these 2 ways of learning. One is by associations. So they are constantly connecting those dots while they're observing their world. For example, every time mom gets out the brush or comb, I'm pinned down and my hair gets pulled. Consequence, when a dog does something, a consequence to their action follows. For our dog brush example, if I growl and snap at them to yell stop, they will back away and stop. So that consequence for that dog is that works. I don't feel comfortable. I do this to make it stop, and it works. I'm going to do that again in the future. Who wouldn't in their place, right? Okay, so We are going to focus then first on changing how they feel by addressing the associations. So one word in the science books for us here is desensitization. And what that means is gradually exposing the dog to something it fears, but at an intensity that does not induce fear. So we must stop the dog from experiencing the fear, anxiety, or stress. Otherwise, we'll never convince them that this handling or restraint is safe. If you're like, well, I have to do it once a week, well, we'll talk about that later and ways we can get around that. Speak with your veterinarian about adjunct supportive medications options if you just can't find that level where you can get them below threshold, because we have to get them below that in order for learning to be able to occur. If we can't get them below it, they're too busy worrying about their own safety. Okay, the next is counter conditioning. And that means that we want to change an unpleasant emotional response to a thing, event, or context by having unpleasant thing become the predictor of a really potent, pleasant thing. As you can imagine, for our dogs, something that's really pleasant would be fabulous food rewards. And that means not just something you would find at the pet food store. We're talking chicken, cheese, Spam, things like that. The next part is that I like to always talk about is that what happens first matters. We want the currently unpleasant thing to clearly become the tip-off that food rains from the sky. And I really like to stress this because I will have people who said, oh, I tried that rewards thing and it didn't work, and I just don't understand it. And that's why. It does work, but it's about one of the key points, what happens first matters. Okay, so we have to break it down. So we always want to think, what is our end goal? So for Sango, the end goal would be that Nicola could get the harness on, or that Sango was putting his own head through the harness and being comfortable with her clipping it the entire process. Or for Tank, with the ear wash bottle, Tank being comfortable with Victoria holding one ear, looking into it, and then applying ear wash, massaging it around, and then being done. And him wanting to stick around and participating the whole time, sans barking or any of the other signals that would be him saying that he was uncomfortable. So we have to figure out, what can your dog do now? We have to start with the lowest level, which can be kind of hard to think about when you're like, oh, I've got this great pie in the sky goal of what I want to do, but where can I start? So we know the very first thing we had to start with Tank and with Ed was the sight of the bottle. For Oleg, with his dogs that he was practicing the body handling with, it would be, let's say, I know one of the goals for the smaller puppy was to be able to pick up the puppy. So you're not going to start right at the pickup. You're going to start with your hand coming towards them, maybe even just one hand, because there's a difference between 1 and 2 and their vision, and then touching, and then slowly increasing to 2 hands, and then getting happy, bending over, all the signals that you're about to pick up the dog. So you're going to break it down and you're going to write out a plan. And this is where it's really helpful to have a trainer help you out. But we can help walk you through it too. So remember, point 4 is that this is about working with our dogs. They are going to be dictating the pace. And that is really hard because we are so used to getting everything so fast. I mean, Amazon Prime, anyone? You know, it's like you have to wait for the mail and you're like, ugh, I can't believe I have to wait. So, but we're in the business of changing how they feel here, and we have to go at their pace. If we try to push, they're going to push back, and we're going to be constantly making one step forward, two steps back. Okay, so I'm going to show you examples of breaking down break it down into parts and order of events. Okay, so here is an example of tank and the bottle. Present the bottle, then reach for the food, and some happy talk, and then she puts it away. Doo-doo-doo. And then she's going to grab another object, present that. He's like, hey, do I get food for this too? Nope. How about this one? Nope. And that one, you can see he likes that because he's not like bouncing up and down, right? But he like booped it a couple times. He's like, this is where I get the food. So you can tell that they practiced a lot with saying this thing. Not that one. Not that one. He's open. Want to see the nose boop one more time because it's adorable.
Yes, good job.
Good.
Good job, Tink. Oh, you're such a good boy.
Good. So that's an example of this, making sure that the order of events is correct. You saw at the bottom, Victoria would present the bottle. She'd pause during that little arrow here. Oh yes, so good. Start happy talking. Then she'd go and reach for her food. That way, the food is not blocking or getting in the way of Tank realizing that it is the bottle, only the bottle, that is the predictor of the good stuff. Not Victoria reached her hand in and crinkle, crinkle, crinkle around, and then she reaches for the bottle and then the food, and it gets all muddy. So this is where it's a very prime example of where you could get stuck if you're not doing it nice and clean like this in these order of events. Okay, so next example. This is a dog, Joey, and this is Joey with a harness. So Joey, let me find the part that I would like to show. So Joey, this is step one where I'm just practicing presenting the harness to him, having good stuff happen, and then having it go away and be boring.
What is that? Yeah. Oh boy.
And for Joey, I literally had to put it on the floor. I couldn't be holding it to start out with because he would run and hide. This is how afraid he was of his harness.
And it goes away.
Think of it as us saying, goes away. No, all the happy talk and food stops. Bet you can't wait till I bring that harness on again.
Good.
Yeah. Okay. So that's an example of step one for a harness. Continue that until he's feeling really wiggly and happy, just like Tank, where Tank was booping that bottle. Joey had a really adorable tail move that he would do when he got happy. So the next part is that you are going to practice presenting the harness, then the food at a level that the dog is comfortable with getting close to the harness. Now, Joey, I had to stick my arm all the way through the harness in order for him to be comfortable enough coming towards it. Once he was comfortable at that level, then I said, okay, now I'm going to bring my hand this far. Did it until he was comfortable there, then this far. And at no point did I lasso him and say, aha, I gotcha, because that would be trapping him. And then he'd say, I'm not, see how he kind of jumped away there, even just by me holding it? He certainly liked that canned chicken, though. That was part of my in with him, was having something really worth it. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward. You can see how I slowly get him so he's just sticking his nose through. Boop, boop, boop. A little further. Kind of show you. All right, this is where I wanted to stop. Okay. Oh, he almost got it past his ears. Tries to go around. Whoa, stretch. See how they stretch in there just to stick his head in? So that's a signal to me he's doing it, but he's not all the way happy about it and comfortable. And not going around, he's just trying to take the easier route for sure. Oop, that was a little scary. Notice I didn't chase him.
No, you can't go around. No, that's not how you get it.
Okay, and then we're gonna go on to him a little further. So I'm gonna I'm gonna push on to 1:45. Okay. See how he's just putting his head through there now, all by himself? I present it, and he puts his head right through it. And this is all a little bit fast forward because this was a 10-minute session. And then just like Nicola was doing with saying go, I slowly got him comfortable with me moving the bits underneath of his armpits, and I was slowly increasing the tightness of the harness to real life tightness. But I didn't start out real tight. I wanted it to just be nice and loose and easy. And here comes the first clip. That clipping sound can be a little bit at first, especially if they've ever,
Good boy.
yeah, if they've ever gotten pinched before or their hair caught.
Yay! Good boy.
Good.
Super. Super.
And then we just do some chicken party, and I'm getting to move around in it to get him to feel comfy. After a little bit of party time, I then take it off before he feels uncomfortable and leave him wanting more. Okay. So whenever we're working on this, we want to make sure that we are getting a positive conditional emotional response, which is what that CER, nice and short for. We want them to be saying yes, please, and sticking around and participating with us. If at any point they are saying no, backing away, they are doing that stretch or they're barely doing it, those are signs that we don't have that full positive CER yet. If they're just like, meh, so what, that's neutral. And sure, neutral is not negative, but it's not positive either. With neutral, we're not building up any sort of savings account so that if something negative does happen, that you have that to draw off of. So, for example, like I was saying, that clip sound with the harness, my own dog, Mary Lou, she accidentally got pinched with the harness when she was at the shelter. So every time she was a bit like Sango, no matter how hard I worked with her, she would flinch when I would go to clip it, even though she was under my watch of 12 years. She was never pinched by me, but it was hard for her to get over that because it really hurt. So we don't want just these neutral things. We want them to have that nice savings account to draw off in case something negative does happen. And with a lot of this husbandry, this care, procedures, the potential of something negative happening is kind of higher up there. We're talking about nail trimming, hair trimming, brushing, them getting poked and prodded with needles for vaccinations, checking to see if they're not feeling well, and all of that when they go to vet clinics. So really, really focus on building those positive emotional responses and not just being satisfied with neutral. We really want to have that to build off of. Okay, so let me go back here. So we've got some comments here. Yay. All right, so lots of clients tell me their dogs suddenly dislike their harnesses. They are confused as to what happened. When I ask more questions, I find out they would either corner the dog or run after them because they just need to go for the walk since it's too much lunchtime and they are pressed for time. Yep, very common. And that was a really hard one for Joey. It was like we need to be able to walk him and walk him safely. And that was the only way that they had for walking him. And once we get to the later bit in the presentation, we'll talk about some management things that we can do and that we can brainstorm with together to think of ways that we can put management under placement while we're teaching these dogs that these things are safe processes. Nicola says, I muffled the clip with my fingers for Sango still. Yeah. One of the things that I did with Mary Lou is I would start to give her a little warning cue that the clip was about to happen. And that really helped her tremendously. So I would have it all lined up and then I'd say clip, pause, then I'd clip it. And that helped her to know when it was coming and then it was all done. So that, she still was a little bit, jumpy, but she wasn't like the whole time and just waiting for it to happen. My dog's going to be goofy in the background here. Loving the savings analogy. Sorry, Mama Dog. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation here. Okay, so we're on to the protecting your work. So management is absolutely always a piece of training. No matter if we are teaching a dog to do an alternate behavior rather than jump on us to greet, be it that they have stranger issues and we're working on teaching them that people are safe, to working on teaching them that the harness leads to good and safe things. So management is always key. So part of management means that we are not pushing them past what they have worked up to. If we are constantly, Ed saying hello, yeah. If we are pushing them up past what we've worked up to, it will lead to the hole in a bucket effect. So I constantly use this one with clients where it's like, if you are working so hard on this and you're continually trying to fill it up with water, but there's a little leak in the bottom, you're just going to end up treading water and you're not going to make any progress. So you need to plug that hole by using some management. If you absolutely must do something. So for some of these things, we do need to sometimes just do it. If your dog gets an ear infection, If it is, they absolutely need to have a blood draw so that you can get prescriptions for them in order to start helping them feel better with other stuff. If you absolutely have to take them for a car ride in order to get them somewhere. I've got a lot of dogs right now that are experiencing some car anxiety. So if you absolutely must, add in some sort of sorry, this is going to be beyond your comfort level cue. So I'll literally have people pick like a 1 or 2 word thing that they say clearly before they have to do the thing. So it could be as simple as sorry, then bring out the harness and then put it on them. Another thing that you can do is you can say, you can start feeding before you start having to do the handling or restraint. Now this is using food at this point as a distractor. Now, some dogs will get wise from this. So this is again the if you absolutely must thing. Dogs get very keen on contexts and situations in which you may be quote unquote trying to trick them. Um, I I can think of a few dogs off the top of my head right now. One lives with me that can very quickly tell when I'm trying to get him to say, go in the bathroom so I can give him a bath. So, which we worked on later. But so start feeding before you start doing the handling or restraint. Okay. Okay, so let's brainstorm. Let's think about some of these things that that you guys have dogs at home that are having a hard time with some stuff. So I picked a couple of things here that I've got. So we had, for example, the little puppy that Oleg was working with on the body handling with the end goal of them being able to pick him up. And this was going to be a small dog its entire life. So there's probably going to be a lot of picking up events. So it was definitely worth it for them to hire Oleg to do the heavy lifting of first getting the puppy comfortable with him doing it and then being able to transfer it over to the family. So in the meantime, what could be an option for the family was, when do you have to pick up your dog? What are the times that you're just feeling like you absolutely need to pick up your dog? If you wanted him to join on the couch because he was still a puppy and didn't have, enough strength in his legs, and you want the puppy to sit with you. If you wanted to put him on one side of the gate or the other. So elevated steps would be my first thing. Especially worth the investment with such a small dog that, at some point in his life, he's probably going to need it again, like when he gets to be a senior. So having some of those, you can get these really nice little foam steps. Gates. So if you're feeling like you're having to pick them up to put them on the other side, this is where I'd say ditch those squeeze gates. I've almost hurt myself, I don't know, more than once or twice, trying to just step over some squeeze gates that were just a little too tall. So I have a bias. I think it's not liking squeeze gates because of my own lazy factor of not taking them down. And I'm now a huge fan of the swing gates. And you can get pressure squeeze gates. So if you're renting, you don't have to worry about putting holes into the thresholds. So have a squeeze gate instead. Putting on a harness. So just like Maja had said, how do you stop that? So options are using a flat collar instead. If that is not enough, let's say you've got a really boisterous, big pulley dog, then an option might be just saying, hey, can we pause walks for a bit? And that's hard, I know, but it's going to help you to progress so much faster if twice a day at least that the dog is not being put over threshold, and then you're working once a day maybe on the harness to teaching them that it's safe. So if a flat collar is not the solution, then can they be in the backyard? Do you have a fenced in backyard? No. Okay. Is there different mental enrichment that you can be giving them inside? Believe it or not, any type of training is really going to be giving them a ton of mental stimulation and making them tired. Almost more so sometimes than some of the outside stuff. So, actually going to work and working on things like the harness, or heck, teaching them, sit pretty or roll over, that is going to be spending energy for them. Clipping your dog's toenails, that's another one. So some management options: completely switching to something that the dog does not find scary. So if your dog is okay with you touching and holding their paws, you could just move to something like a nail file, like literally the nail file like we use on our nails. You can get those big fatty ones. You can use that and just do a couple of swipes. That is really much less invasive for our dogs, and you'd be surprised at how much you can get shaved off of with one of those little files. I know other people have just said, oh, we just walk our dog on the sidewalk more, or we take more or longer walks. And that seems like that really helps with the back paws and the nails there. It doesn't seem like it helps as much with the front ones. I don't know if anybody else here has any ideas for management options for clipping your dog's nails. But it kind of, one of the options bleeds into the next one, would be vet care visits. So I'm a big proponent of life is better with chemistry. So I would say talk with your veterinarian about pre-visit medication options for your dog, so it can help them to get through it. Medications do not solve problems when it comes to behaviors, but it helps. Anything to help reduce the stress that our dogs are having when they have to have these things done. So, if your dog really, really needs to get their nails done, maybe you could couple it in with a vet visit that you're doing and have that pre-meds on board to make it easier for them and get it done. And then you could say, okay, we're caught up. Now we're really going to focus on learning how to do it ourselves, so we no longer have to farm it out and make those experiences bad. Okay. All right. So we're almost done, I promise. So how to find qualified help. So the dog training industry is unregulated. This sort of stuff, working with fear, anxiety, and aggression, not every trainer is qualified to do it, and not every trainer wants to do it. And hey, that is totally fine. I love it when trainers are specializing in things. I do puppies, I do play, I do this. It's fabulous. So it's okay if you are working with a trainer right now and they say, hey, this is a bit out of my ballpark. Here's who I would suggest that you reach out to. They're looking out for you, which is fabulous. Ask questions. If you don't have a dog trainer currently that you're working with that have used in the past, ask them what will happen if my dog growls at you when you try to brush him. What do they say? Do they say that they stop and let your dog vote with their feet and then work with helping them to feel better about it? Or do they say something more along the lines of, your dog just has to get over it, I'm going to make it happen? That's not going to change how your dog feels. That, in fact, will, if you're lucky, just have your dog suppress how they feel for a little bit, but then most likely that's going to come out later, and you're going to get one of those, oh, my dog bit under the blue. It wasn't out of the blue. It was that your dog had learned that they couldn't tell you or other people that they were uncomfortable. And they suppressed all of those feelings. And then finally, when they couldn't handle it anymore, boom, they're like, okay, I have to do something to make this stop. And they bite. So look for somebody who has education, formal education. We're not just talking books or that they are members of certain different clubs. If they say they have a certification, copy and paste that and Google it, and then see what those certifications mean. What is the mission code of conduct? And what are the ramifications if the people who are a part of their membership or association do not follow their code of conduct? This is important stuff. And the reason I bring this up so often is because the number of clients I have come to me after they have worked with somebody who doesn't have the formal education is just staggering, frankly. And you end up spending, you end up spending more money just by going through different trainers, and until you get to somebody who is qualified. So I'm here to help you be a, a good consumer, and knowing how to shop and look for trainers that can genuinely help you. And continuing education is great, but hey, you know what? A webinar or reading a book is just not enough. And I never would have understood that myself until I went to school. I had probably read every single book out there because my dog Mary Lou is a hot mess. And I was trying to learn everything I could. And I was like, I'm going to go to school. This is going to be a cakewalk because I know all this stuff. I can just get some letters at the end of my name. Boy, was I wrong. And wow, was I just humbled. So there really is more to it than you can imagine. And you have to have somebody who truly understands how dogs learn, how to motivate them, and how to work with you, frankly, as a person to make sure that you understand, because you're the one who's doing the vast majority of training with your dog. Okay, so do we have questions? It's not often for lives that I make these formal presentations, so that was kind of fun, and I kind of geeked out doing it. When I was talking about gaits, Nicola said she loves her Regalo step through gaits. Yeah. Yep. Let's see here. We also have Sango hates collars being put on too, but we initially used a scary harness and a separate harness for training. Ah, smart. Okay, okay. So which she always had the choice to walk away from or say no to. She no longer chooses to walk away, even though she still doesn't love having to put it on. So that was a lot of work for you guys. But I love the idea of the scary harness and the safe harness. So it's just like that, like the verbal safety cue that I was saying, oh, sorry. So things that, would be helpful, like if you use Nicola's method is, making sure the harnesses are different enough. So color, understanding how dogs see color. They see blues and yellows more vibrantly than they do see, say, reds or greens that get kind of muddy. Dogs don't see in black and white, but it is kind of muddy and not great. So making sure that they're completely different would be another way to do it. Great. We did have one, it wasn't really a question, it was more of a comment. And see if anybody else here is experiencing this. From our Instagrams, the Instagram accounts are always a little bit different with the names. I think it's Allison actually. Mastel shared that my dog is very anxious going alone to the vet because of COVID. She used to love her vet. Oh, good. She's here. Great. Okay. All right, so my dog can tell when I change from just touching her to trying to do some kind of care. Cut nails, clean ears, tend to a scrape. A regular touch is good, but she doesn't always like being picked at. Yeah. That's a good point. So frequently, I will have, this would happen a lot, I guess, in my puppy classes when I was having group classes a year ago. As people say, oh, my puppy's fine with me touching or playing with her feet. I play with them all the time when I'm watching TV and they don't care. So that is like this. This is the neutral, so what? But they were not creating any of the positive experiences. So what you need to do is practice setting it up as if you were going to touch her feet, as if you were going to actually clip the toenail, but you don't. Touch the ears as if you're actually going to clean them, but don't, to get her comfortable with that. So for example, I have, oh, I don't think I have it. I don't have it as a quick download. But one of the things that I've always got my fake dog. So one of the things that we're working on for the ear care course that we're coming out with is practicing first just touching the ear and then happy, talk, and pay. Continue to do that until the dog is happy and comfortable. Then touch and do a little ear flip. Do that, touch, ear flip. Then you're going to do maybe a touch, ear flip and get closer. That is a different picture, right? That's probably a bit more Allie when she's noticing this is not the same thing. This is where it's getting a little scary. And then maybe bringing up your second hand. So this and then this. My little dog's going off the corner. And of course, like Tank, teaching Elsie that the bottle is a predictor of good things, or the sight of the clippers is a good thing. So all of those, practice all of those out of context are going to be very helpful, as well as, let's say you practice the whole restraint and the touching that you were doing with the ears, then practice doing it with the bottle, but don't actually have any stuff going in there. So, and if at any point you feel them like tense up or whatever, I want you to happy talk and pay anyways. That feels weird. And the reason is because as humans, we're very consequence driven, and we say, hey, but my dog just backed up. Why would I pay my dog for backing up and going away from me? The reason is it's because we're focusing on associations. We're using what they're doing for their body language as a window into how they're feeling. If your dog backs up, that's a sign to us that they were not comfortable, and you're going to pay anyways and say, hey, sorry, I'm going to make it easier for you next time. Here's payment for me making it too hard. So think of it like that. I promise. They're not going to say, oh, if I back up, that's what's going to get me the food. They're going to say, oh, I backed up, they listened to me, and I got paid anyways. Maybe it is okay and safe for me to stay up closer here. So think of it like that. All right, Dana. When I brush Ike's belly, underbelly, and legs, he always starts to bite the brush. I'm starting to brush a few strokes and give him a treat. Excellent. But then it just makes him super excited and he doesn't sit still. Yeah, so I might, if he gets super excited, I might audition different treats that maybe aren't as motivating. Not as motivating. That's probably not a good way to explain it. Not as exciting. And some dogs get really excited about some food, and then they're just like, that's all they can think about. So we still want it to be something of value to him and worth it. So what you could do is, of course, I don't have my food tube here because I cleaned my desk recently, but you could have like a little food tube, and you could have that, say, filled with a little bit of peanut butter. And you could bring that out, let him have a lick, do a couple brushes, let him have a lick, do a couple brushes, let him have a lick, and see if that is helpful. And part of why I like peanut butter for some of this stuff is that it's a little bit longer lasting, and they kind of have to work at getting it off of their tongue and the roof of their mouth. So it does buy us a little bit of time as we're doing something like the brushing. Another important part about when I'm working on brushing is something I want to think about is where am I delivering the food, and when am I telling my dog that they have just, the food is coming. So it sounds like Ike, like if you do 1, 2 brushes, then yes. Then what I would do, here's Ike. Okay, here's Ike. I'm brushing his belly. Rather than me having the treats over here and then him standing up to come get the treats, I'm going to brush, brush, brush his belly, then say, yeah, good boy. And then I'm going to pay him from this side so that his head is staying up this way and he knows the food's coming from over here. So he's less apt to want to stand up and come towards the food because it's over here. And if he's like, oh, if I just stay laying down here, mom's just going to keep feeding me intermittently after she gives me a couple brushes. Okay. And that is what we call feeding for position. Super handy, super handy. Awesome. Okay. Does anybody else have any little questions about where to start? Oh, Allie, I forgot to address where you could start with Elsie for the vet. So one of the first things that I would start doing is practicing driving to your vet clinic, getting into the parking lot or parking in the street, then walking around the parking lot area, maybe in the front of the clinic. Doing this when there's not very many cars in the parking lot is ideal because then you don't have to worry about bumping into any other potential clients and just have nothing happen. You don't go in, no stranger comes out and grabs her leash and then takes her in and away, and just stick right there for a while. And then if you wanted, you could contact your vet and say, hey, I would like to start helping her to feel better. And you could contact us and we could help you guys to start working through the plan with your veterinarian. Because then at that point, with curbside, we do have to practice breaking it down into little bits of things such as staff popping out, you decreasing distance to the staff, you handing over the leash, them going inside. But we have to break it down into all of these little sessions. So it's never just Elsie going in and then getting poked and prodded and then coming back out again. So we're just making little steps. And so asking your veterinarians how you could set that up would be great. A lot of folks now are calling them happy visits, which I love. So reach out to them and have them reach out to me if they have any questions. I would be absolutely love to help you and to help them. Okay. All right. Super. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. So we're a little bit over my hour limit. We're at 1:09, but that's okay because we got some great questions. And I love it when you guys ask questions. So we're going to be continuing more about this cooperative care. Send us, questions you may have. They're things that we can focus on in the future. Like I said, we're going to be coming out with a ear care course that you can work on to help your dogs feel comfortable with ear wash or ear medication. We're almost through. I just got to film the last step and get it proofread, and then we'll be up and ready. I'm very excited about that one. Vet visits, I'm happy to help folks with that. I would love to, I'm hoping to get some video soon of clients that are working through it. We've got some clients that are pretty far along in the plan, which is super exciting. And let's see here. So for our next Monday, we're going to be talking about being better together. So veterinary practitioners and behavior consultants working together. Behavior, medical, woo! We're a dream team when we work together. So we're going to be talking with Allison Laminin and Dr. Bull. I'm probably saying it wrong. I should have asked about them two working together in the clinic and how they're able to help each other with clients to help everybody to feel better. Oh, great. Well, thank you, Sharon. I'm glad that you thought it was great information. And thank you, Nicola, for giving us video of Sango to use. Thank you. I'm so happy that you guys enjoyed it. And please do let us know if there's other things you want us to talk about. I'm always thinking of things that we can present. There's so many things. Sometimes it's just hard for me to choose. All right. So you guys have a good rest of your evening. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next Monday.